Hi, I'm Margaret. In this video I'm going to show you how to create a GUI with a button and how to make the button respond to a button click. I'm going to create a new JFrame, other WindowBuilder JFrame, and I'm going to call it my first button. We're going to switch to design view. And here in design view, I'm going to look for my components. I'm going to click a J button, hover it over the center position of my border layout, and I call it my first button. The moment I press enter, my variable name gets updated, button, my first button. Just run it quickly, and here it is. I'm going to switch to the source code, and we are going to have a look at the constructor, which is right here. Notice a button was created and it was added to the center position of my border layout from my content pane. At this point it is the default button. We didn't set the font or the color, etc. But if we did, WindowBuilder would keep adding more statements right here in my constructor. I don't want this to happen because it would clutter my code. So I'm going to extract a method. We know already the keyboard shortcut from last time, Alt-Shift-M, and I'm going to call it new button, my first button. And there it is. So here I have a private method that creates the button, returns the button, and in my constructor I just call this private method. Why do we need it? Because we want all the details specified in a method which structures my code rather than having a cluttered constructor. So let's go back to design view and let's set some properties. Here is my button. I'm going to change my font. I want to have my font nice and big, and I'm going to change my color. I want my color to be white, or very light color here. That's maybe white. And I want my background color to be something dark red. Now notice, at this point it only makes a dark outline, but if we run the program, we can see we actually have a big red button with a white text. So sometimes you will notice that in WindowBuilder the design view doesn't exactly correspond to your actual display. It's just something we need to accept. Let's switch back to source view, see how that affected our code. Constructor is still clear, easy to read, and all the details were specified in my private method. At this point, my button still doesn't respond to any clicking. Why not? Because we haven't implemented it yet. So I go back. And one way I can create a button event handler is by just clicking my button right here in my design view. I do this with my left mouse click. I double click, and a new statement has been added to our method. Here, the method ActionListener is called on our button, my first button. What ActionListener does is the following. It adds an action listener. The action listener knows how to respond to the button click. Now, when we call ActionListener, we need to pass an argument. And the argument needs to be an action listener. Now let's have a look what exactly an action listener is. Action listener is an interface. It's an interface that has exactly one method. The one method is called action performed. Here in this very method, action performed, we write the code that responds to the action, in our case, the button click. A action listener is an instance of any class that implements the interface. And every class that implements the interface has to implement the method. So here you can see new action listener. That can look like we are creating an instance of an interface, but of course we are not. Java doesn't allow you to create an instance of an interface. It allows you to create an instance of a class that implements the interface. So this syntax here is called an anonymous class. And what happens is the following. Java creates a class that implements the action listener. It doesn't even give it a name because we don't care about the name of the class. All we care about is to have this very one method implemented, because this is the method that should respond to our button click. And Eclipse was preparing all of the above for us, and all we need to do is to write some code right here. Let's say I want my button to be turned green when it is clicked. So here I take my button, my first button, and I set the background color to the color green. Notice I get a red wiggly line. The problem is the following. I'm using a variable from my new button, my first button method inside a method of my anonymous inner class. I can't do that unless my variable is final, and Eclipse asks me what I would like to change my variable declaration to final. That works nicely for me. So I make my first button final, which means I cannot reassign a different button to it. And if I do that, I can access it from my action performed method of my anonymous inner class. Let's run the program. There it is. I'm going to click my button, it turns green. Now I can keep clicking it and it's green every time. It would be nice to have my button toggle between two colors. Let's say green and yellow. I can do that. I could just say if my button, my first button, has a background color, so I'm looking it up, I say get background color. And if it has a background color that is equal to the color green. In that case, I would like my button to get a background color of yellow. Otherwise, I would like my button to get a background color of green. Let's run this again. Originally, my button is red. I click it, it's green. Now, at this point, we're checking whether my color is green, and this will be true, so we will set it to yellow. Now, if I click it again, we will check whether the button is green. This is false, so we will set it to green. And I can keep clicking, and it toggles between green and yellow.